Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a while and I wanted to share some new art that I've been working on and have a chat with you about a variety of things. First off, I want to mention that I do have a video planned coming up, hopefully sometime in May, to better describe why I have been even more absent than I would have liked for this year so far. I know I wanted to cut back on videos, but it has gone way farther than I would like, and there are some reasons for that, so be on the lookout for that video next month. Now that that is out of the way, let me tell you a little bit about what you'll be seeing in this video and already see so far. So as you can tell, I am working on some artist trading cards, or ACEOs, depending on what you want to call them. Basically small pieces of artwork that are roughly 2.5 by 3.5 inches. And I did this last April as a part of the hashtag ACEO April challenge that was created by Claire of Black Summer Coloring. And this year I also wanted to at least partially follow along. I didn't think I would be able to really follow super closely, but I wanted to get some done, and I picked out my favorites of the first half of the month that I have sketched out to paint and show you. I also decided to follow the prompts of the hashtag April Art Challenge created by Bun or Roxanne here on YouTube and Instagram. She has all of the prompts posted and her artwork is gorgeous, so I encourage you to go check out all of the other people that are participating in this fun challenge. But I thought her prompts were really fun and interesting and different, and so I wanted to check those out and try to implement them in these pieces, and again create small pieces that were easier for me to finish with a lot of on my plate right now. This first one is clearly, hopefully clearly a tiger, and I was using the prompt X-ray, and I had this idea to create the sort of stripes or patterning in the shape of bones, primarily human bones, which I don't know if that is creepy or cool, or yeah, I'm not really sure. But that was sort of what I wanted to go with because I wanted them to be really recognizable and have a really prominent bone structure in the middle of the face, so it was very recognizable that this is supposed to be bones. So that is what I worked on for this first piece. I also wanted to mention that I am planning on using a variety of different art supplies from my stash in this video because I am really wanting to get through using older supplies and using up my stash before really paying for any more supplies, preferably at all the rest of this year. I am planning on just using supplies I have so many. I am very blessed to have the stash that I do, and I want to actually use those supplies. So for this first piece, I am using leftover paint from a palette that I used for the Arteza watercolors when I was creating, I think, the ornaments, the paint on wood ornaments in December, and I had squeezed out just a little bit of paint, but I didn't use all of it, and so I wanted to use up more of that and use up even just the tiniest bit of art supplies. I then sort of used a combination of what was on my palette along with this little mini square palette that I built for myself out of various samples that have been sent to me by friends and patrons and things like that. And I want to get through trying out these paint samples as well because they are from a variety of brands of watercolor, and I want to not only use them up, but I want to really work with the supplies so that I can be well informed when purchasing the next watercolors that I want to, and just test out the variety of supplies that I do have. So this next prompt for this piece was knotted, and I immediately thought of a little octopus, which are one of my favorite animals to paint, getting all kind of knotted up and tied up in its tentacles. So that is what I did for this one. It's a fairly simplistic design, but I wanted to just kind of play around with the composition and play around with the paints, and a lot of this little mini project was playing around with new things, trying new techniques, and I had a lot of fun using up supplies and trying out different ideas in a small format, which was a lot more manageable than larger pieces. And while I'm finishing up this guy, I wanted to share a little side project that I've been working on in the last month or so. I've actually been working with the ACEO app people. So ACEO app, I think a lot of you would be familiar with it because I know a lot of other artists have had sponsored content here on YouTube promoting the app. This is not sponsored. I just happen to be working with them over on the app, and I wanted to share my experience because one of my videos that I've created for them is one of these art cards. So this is for the prompt folded, and I just put in a little snippet of my video here. You can check out the full video over on the app, and I have a couple other story videos up over there. They are within the story category. So if you are on the app or you want to check it out, it's a really interesting place to really share in a variety of ways, different art you're working on, and hang out with other artists and things like that. So I've been enjoying using it, and if you guys want to go check it out and follow me over there, that would be really fun. But I did want to share that just because I have been working with them over on the app, and it's been really fun to create a new sort of video format and work on the sort of short form, quick videos, and creating tutorials and time lapses and a variety of different things over there. And next up we have the prompt bottled, and for some reason this was one of the easier pieces for me to come up with conceptually. I really wanted to do an interesting shaped bottle that had a snake or some sort of animal inside. I felt like a snake would be a really interesting shape. I had a lot of fun making this piece, and for this one I ended up using my Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus watercolors. So they're liquid watercolors. You can see them in the little container that I have to the left. I am actually testing out using this container to keep my Hydrus watercolors. It actually seals each of these little spaces, and is sort of like a watercolor palette. I sort of randomly found it after searching for a way to better preserve my mixed colors of this liquid watercolor, because I do like mixing my own colors, and I've found it really difficult to rehydrate them once they've dried, since they are made to stay in liquid form. So and they are very expensive, and so I would hate to waste any more of my paints of theirs. And so I am testing out this little contraption. I might do a review of it in the future. If you are interested in it, I will link it down below if you want to check it out on Amazon. It was really reasonably priced, I think. I've used these paints on and off, but I haven't really gotten to really use them up, and I really want to focus on using these because I really do love the colors. They are really, really vibrant, and they claim to be very light fast, which is really uncommon in other watercolor that is so bright. So I actually have another video coming out hopefully pretty soon where I'm gonna show you a little bit more of my thoughts on them being light fast. I ended up actually painting some swatches and leaving it in my lit window for over a year, kind of by accident, but I think it gives a good idea of what you end up getting from those kinds of paints. And so I was testing those out and had a fun time sort of sharing my thoughts on those. So that video will be coming out soon. I also ended up getting out my metallic watercolors, and I really don't use these very often. They are so specialty, and it's tough if I am creating artwork to be on prints or other kinds of products and things like that, metallic paint does not scan very well and reproduce really at all, and so I don't use it very often, but for these little individual pieces I thought it would be fun to get them out. I don't think they added a whole lot to this piece, especially the way I used them. I ended up using a green metallic watercolor and tried to make it textured to sort of look like scales, but I don't think that really added to the design a whole lot. I end up breaking them out at the end of this video for the final piece that I show you, and I really am happy with how I use them in that piece. So it's definitely an experiment, and this design still ended up being pretty cute in my opinion, so it was fun to experiment with them. As you can see, I've already started on my next piece here, and the prompt is spicy, and I had the idea of doing a fairly simplistic design where there are mushrooms that look like hot peppers, and so I stuck with the color schemes that different peppers would have typically. So more of the warmer colors, a little bit more yellow and oranges in there that I don't use as often, but in the form of sort of mushrooms like they're growing out of the ground. It's a little bit of a difficult design to come up with, but I think it turned out okay. Again, a lot of these are experimental for me, and it was fun to test them out. And again, I'm testing out the watercolors that I have in this sort of sample set that is a combination of different watercolors from a variety of people. So it was fun to test out different watercolor brands all together and make this cute little design. And here we have the last piece I was mentioning. I end up using watercolor pencils primarily, and then adding in that metallic watercolor for the crystals in this design like I was mentioning before. So the prompt for this one, I feel like I need to explain a little bit. The prompt is famous musician, and when I was researching for this prompt, I put in famous musician, I think, into Google, and one of the artists that popped up was Lady Gaga. And I was really amused by all of the interesting outfits, mostly from her past, that she has worn and is fairly famous for. And there's a particular one, I can't remember exactly when she wore it, but it was this all white outfit with a bunch of white crystals sort of sticking out of her in various ways. And looking through a lot of her outfits, it really reminded me of just how flamboyant and intricate and decorative peacocks tend to be. And I thought it would be interesting to create a peacock that has some sort of element from one of her outfits. So I think I'm doing a little bit of a stretch here for this representing the famous musician prompt, but you know, prompts are a jumping off point, and so it was fun to create this design, and I did really enjoy how this turns out. I didn't stick with the white from the outfit, I just kind of took the element of these crystals coming out of something else that was very decorative, like her dress, and so I merged it with a peacock. So a few steps to sort of get here visually, but I did have a lot of fun creating this. And as you can see, I used my Arteza watercolor pencils that I am slowly but surely getting more comfortable with. They are pretty fun to use. And then I wanted all of those elements to be pretty textured, so the feathers and even the body of the peacock I wanted to be pretty textured, whereas the crystals I wanted to be both metallic and shiny but also very smooth, because crystals tend to be very smooth, which is why I went in as a base layer of pink with the Dr. P.H. Martins. It's fairly watered down, so it's a very, very light pink, but I didn't want any added texture because I did want this piece to be the crystal element to be very smooth in texture. So as you can see, I have added the metallic watercolor. I think I ended up using this sort of pearlescent kind of white color, and then I'm just going over the lines again to make sure that the crystals really pop out, because the metallic watercolor is actually fairly opaque and it really covers up those lines, which is good. You want that from a metallic watercolor, and so it was something I wanted to go back in and go over the lines with my black pen and add in some highlights, and there we go. And here I'm just setting out all of the different pieces that I created in this video, including that art amino one here. These are all pretty different design-wise, and some are more simple than others, but again, this is a really fun experiment, and I got to use up a little bit more of some of my supplies and really experiment with these designs. So let me know down below which ones are your favorites. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a creatively fulfilled day, and I'll see you next time.